How to sell my home in 2026 with fewer buyers on the market. Hey guys, this is Sandy. Today I want to do a video for you on how to sell my home in 2026 with fewer buyers on the market. All right, let's get into it. So we're in 2026. It's March 23rd, I think it is today. We're entering into our spring market. That's supposed to be the busiest market, the busiest time of the year for selling real estate, typically, as we get into our spring market. We have fewer buyers on the market because a lot of people are scared of buying. There's so much stuff going on in our society right now. We have the war in the Middle East that might affect the price, that will affect, not me, but will affect the price of oil, gas, public transportation, all that great stuff. A lot of uncertainties in the market. Interest rates are high. They're kind of climbing a little bit. We're not sure if they're going to be going down. So if you have to sell a home today, what are we going to do? How are we going to get our home sold today in this particular environment? Now, I know some sellers are going to say, well, I don't have to sell. I could wait the market out. But some sellers don't have that kind of luxury. Some people have their home have gone up as far as their taxes and their insurances and all that great stuff. And they feel like they want to downsize or get rid of that particular home to buy a home with less taxes or maybe go to a condo or whatever the situation is. But there's a lot of sellers out there that need to sell. And some sellers, unfortunately, have also gone into a short sale situation where they may have to do a short sale to sell the home. But the fact of the matter is, if you need to sell in 2026, what are we going to do? How are we going to get the home sold? And since there are fewer buyers on the market, then that means buyers have more choices, including new construction. So if you're selling a home in an area where there's new construction and the price of your home is in line with the new construction properties, that's something we're going to discuss a little bit later on in the video, but that's something you need to figure out. What are we going to do? It may not be the regular sale as we normally are used to, because there's different changes and stuff going on in the society today as we know it. So what are we going to do? Well, first thing we're going to do is let's figure out, are we selling a home that needs work, or are we selling a home that is in pristine condition? Let's first talk about the home that needs work. If the home needs work, how much work does it need, and how are you willing to do the work, right? Are you going to sell it as is, or are you going to sell it, are you going to do the work to it, and how much work does it need? The more work it needs, the more lowball offers you're going to get, because then you're going to get investors coming in and offering you all kind of crazy offers because the home needs work. So based upon how much work, it could just need updating. Maybe it has, maybe the carpets are old, maybe the faucets are old, maybe it's an older home and it was never updated. So maybe you just need to get it updated, and it probably just needs some renovations like that. Or maybe it actually needs work, like it actually needs work for it to be livable. So for this video, we're going to look at two things. One, we're going to figure out, okay, let's say the home just needs some updating as versus a home that doesn't need any updating. So let's say it needs work because it needs updating, right? Maybe an older AC, an older hot water tank, that kind of stuff. So one of the things you need to look into, if that's the situation, is if it needs updating, it needs some kind of work. There are loans out there that help a regular buyer. It's called the FHA 203K program. It helps a regular buyer to buy the home. It gives them the money to buy the home and to do some repairs. The FHA 203 program is in two different categories. You have one that's up to $30,000. I believe that's what it is. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But it's a certain price limit up to $30,000, where you just need, the home doesn't need a major renovation. It just needs light stuff, going on. Maybe it needs a roof. Maybe the roof is old and you have a problem selling it because the roof is old and a lot of insurance companies don't want to touch it. So you might need to replace the roof. So FHA 203K program may come into that, because that program will give the buyer the money to replace the roof. Maybe you need a new AC, a new hot water tank. The program will provide that as well, okay? And then you have the 203K program, which is for $30K or more, right? Over a certain price limit, which means the property needs more work than that. It needs major work. So in presenting the home for sale with your realtor or by yourself, you could let them, the buyers know, hey, it needs some repairs, but we're open to the FHA 203K program. because that program takes a little bit longer. The one with the $30,000 limit doesn't take as long as the other one that's the full-blown renovation. So minimal renovation work, maybe to replace the roof, the AC, the hot water tank, the kitchen, something like that. FHL 203K program will work, and that's something that I see coming back more now in today's market. So that's something you could do. Also, even if it needs some work, you could still present it in the best light possible, right? So you still could present it like it being not necessarily into a model home, but make sure everything is neat and nice and it's neutralized, right? So if it needs, it could be an older roof, but the home is in good condition. It just needs, the roof is just old. It's not leaking, but it's old, right? It could be a situation like that. So in situations like that, that's what you would do. Now, if you have older appliances, let's say the hot water tank is old, the AC unit is old, you could offer a home warranty. And I've always said it's best to offer a 2-year home warranty as opposed to a 1-year. The builders are offering a 1-year. Why not offer the buyer a 2-year warranty? You buy the home, it is as is. We know the appliances are older. We know the AC unit is older. All that stuff is older. But if you buy it as it is, we'll give you a 2-year warranty. So if any of those things break down, they'll get it fixed or repaired during the 2-year period, right? That's something you could do. Another thing you could do is you could offer to help with the buyer's closing costs, right? Help with the buyer. So if the buyer went to their lender and discussed how they could do an interest rate buy down, and the lender told them, okay, you need this amount of money to buy interest rate, to do an interest rate buy down, maybe you could help them with that, provided that you get a reasonable offer. So you could tell the buyer, if you're coming with a reasonable offer, I will be able to help you with your interest rate buy down. As long as you let me know what that cost is, we'll see how we could work that out. Because that's what the builders are doing. So why not do the same thing? The builders are offering a lot of interest rate buy down to the buyers that are coming to them. So if you're selling a home, you may need to do that so that you stay in competition with the builders. Now, let's say you have a home that doesn't need any work. It's in pristine condition and you just want to sell it. Now, for that particular home, obviously, you're going to make sure that you stage the home. Very important. Even with the home that needs some work, staging works wonders. So you want to make sure the home is staged. For both homes, whether it needs work or not need work, you want to do a preliminary home inspection. Why? Because you want to be aware of anything that could come up on that home inspection report, whether you intend to fix it or not. So you want to make sure you do a home inspection report. And when you do the report, you could offer that to the buyer through your realtor or direct to the buyer if you're selling it yourself, to say, hey, this is the inspection report. We understand this is the situation that we're in. We're willing to do this repairs, but we're not going to do the rest. Because you know up front, as opposed to the buyer coming, making an offer, going to do the inspection, coming back with a laundry list of stuff to repair that you don't want to do or you can't afford to do, and then the deal dies. And then all that time, the property was off the market. So instead of doing that, it's best to do an inspection report up front, find out what's going on. Even if you think you know the home and you maintain the home and you've lived in it and you know everything about it, the inspector is a third party. He has no interest in the property.
This program is brought to you by Gift Group Sells Homes. Need to buy or sell fast? Make one call, that's all. And put our 23 years of experience to work for you. Gift Group Sells Homes is the way to go. Call for 07-791-4713.
So he's going to find things you probably never thought was a problem in the property, but that's good because you want to know that up front. You want to have that up front so that there's nothing to surprise you when the buyer actually come and do their home inspection. You want to do a home inspection up front. Want to make sure that you stage the property. You want to make sure that you're listing to sell, guys. This is super important. List to sell the home. Don't list for the home. Like some agents just have to list the property. Oh yeah, I could get you all this money. Just list it. No, you want to know what the market value is and you want to put it on the market for it to sell, not for it to sit. This is not the market that we're going to just put on the market and see what happens. Because if it's overpriced, nothing is going to happen in this market. Unless you luck out and some person is willing to come and give you cash because it has something super duper that nobody else's home has. And that's possible. That could happen. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, if you want to attract the most buyers, you want to make sure it is priced to sell. That's going to be super important, especially in this market. And you have to be negotiable. So let's say you're like, I'm not going to reduce my price, but I'll help with the closing costs. Or I'm not going to help with the closing costs, but I'll reduce my price. What I'll tell you in this market is it's best to list it at market value and then help the buyer with the closing costs, because at the end of the day, the cash at the table, at the closing table, is what really matters, right? Not the amount you're reducing it by. For an example, if you reduce the home by $10,000, for an example, that's not really much to a buyer over a 30-year period. But if you gave the buyer that same $10,000 at the closing table, you give it to them as a credit, then they're able to apply that to their closing costs, whether it be with an interest rate buy down or however they want to apply it. So money is power in this particular market in 2026 that we're in. And so we want to, the more money the buyer think they're saving or getting, the best for them, because that's what the builders are doing. Now, if you're in a location where you're competing with builders, and your home is your home price is reflective of what the builders are selling for in your particular area, then you have to offer incentives. I know you can't offer the builders incentives because their incentives are, nobody could offer those incentives, but you have to offer some kind of incentive similar to theirs. For an example, if they're offering an interest rate buy down, then you'll tell the buyer, go ahead and speak with your lender and find out how we could help you, assist you in getting your interest rates lowered, right? We'll help you with the interest rate buy down based upon what that figure looks like. And that's going to be super important, because the buyer is going to be looking for the new construction home. They're going to be looking at your home. Your home may offer a lot of stuff that the new construction home doesn't, that they don't have to go buy, like, beautiful landscaping. Maybe you have a pool. Maybe you have a certain customized kitchen that the new construction home doesn't have. So they also are incentivized to also buy your home, not just a new construction home. So you want to think about, okay, how are we going to incentivize this, our home, to make sure that we attract the best buyers? And guess what? You could still have a bidding war if you position the property correctly. If you price it to sell, and if you offer the correct incentives, just like the builders are doing, you might actually also be able to get a bidding war. Like, people are making different offers on the property. You might be able to do that, right? That's something that is definitely possible. Very, very, very much possible. So that's some of the things that you want to take into consideration. Definitely want to make sure you're staging it to sell. Definitely want to do an inspection ahead of time. You may also want to contact your HOA to make sure that there's no violation that you weren't aware of, because this comes up a lot on the closing table, or not at the closing table, but when you get the estoppel letter, these things come up on the HOA that nobody else thought was, they're like, what are you talking about? That was already cleared. So make sure if you're in an HOA, everything is clear with the HOA. Make sure that you're offering some kind of incentive to the buyer. Make sure your price to sell is super important. I know I'm repeating that many, many times. And make sure that when the buyer is coming in to see the home, that it's in showable condition, right? So one of the things that we do is we try to have like an open house that particular weekend, so that your kid be prepared for it. So we kind of like send out to all the buyers that, listen, we're having an open house at this property on Thursday, Friday, Saturday between these hours, or maybe Saturday and Sunday, or maybe Friday, Saturday, whatever the dates are, so that they're able to see it. And we also send it out to the agent. So maybe right before you put the property on the market, you could say, listen, you could have this negotiation with your agent. Listen, why don't we do open house for these first 2 days? So that way, when it goes on the MLS, these are the two, it's in the MLS on that Thursday. We're going to be having open house Friday, Saturday, Sunday from this time frame. That way, the home is shown in the best light for those particular 3 days. And you could, you could plan around it. You could go away for 3 days, or, visit someone, or, just not be in the home for the time that they're going to be showing it. And if you have kids, you may want to do Saturday and Sunday, because I know Thursday and Friday is kind of hard. They do have schools, and that's going to be hard in playing out. But that's something you could actually discuss with your agent to make sure that when you're showing the property, that you're not there and it's been shown in the best light, right? So I know people have to say, well, they're not looking at my stuff. They're looking at the home. No, they're looking at everything, and everything sells it. Imagine when you walk into a builder's model home, right? When you walk into a builder's model home, most of the time you will not be able to buy that model home. They're not going to sell. Most of the upgrades that's in the model home is not for sale. They just position it that way to give you the incentive to buy a home in that development. So you're going to do the same thing with your home. You want to make it in such a way where you're giving the buyer, you want them to see themselves in the home. So you want to neutralize the home as much as possible. Take down all of the personalized stuff, all the personal pictures, the baby pictures, all that stuff, because they want to see themselves in it, right? And remember, guys, when it comes to upgrades, like if you had upgraded the property based upon how much you upgraded it, you may not get all the money back for all the upgrades. Because let's face it, most of the time when we do upgrades, we are upgrading for us, right? We want the particular color quartz countertop or granite or cabinets or whatever it is that we do. We're renovating for us. The buyer may not have the same taste. So even though you spend all this money renovating and making it you, the buyer may not see it that way. They might see, I don't want those cabinets. I'm going to have to repaint those cabinets. I may have to, down the line, we might have to change those counters or whatever it is they come up with. Or we may have to change the painting. I don't like the way they paint this house. See, neutrality is very important. So if you have any colored walls, you may want to paint it out to a neutral color. That way the buyer could see themselves in it. Think about when you're looking at homes and homes you're attracted to. Most of the homes that we're attracted to are very neutralized homes. They have browns or beiges or grays or white or browns, very neutral colors, because you could also always add your color to it. So be very mindful of that, okay? So let's recap. We want to make sure we're neutralizing the home to sell. We're staging the home for sure. We're pricing it to sell. We're offering incentives to the buyer, whether it be a home warranty or helping to pay down their closing costs, whatever that looks like. We want to make sure that we're doing that. We also want to make sure we check with our HOAs to make sure there's nothing at all, no kind of a lien or anything like that through the HOA. You may also want to contact your title company and just make sure there's no liens on the property either. Want to make sure all this is out of the way. The inspection report is very important before you list the property or before you sell the property, because you just don't want the surprises. You don't want the buyer to bring their inspector in and they find whatever it is they find. You want to make sure you know this ahead of time. That is super duper important. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's kind of a lengthy video, but I think this information will help you if you're looking to sell a home in 2026 in this high interest rate market. You want to make sure you price it to sell. You want to make sure you're offering some kind of incentive to the buyer, not just negotiation on price, but also negotiating, helping them to buy down their interest rate or helping them with the closing costs. Want to make sure you're offering them 2-year home warranty or more if you have older appliances. You want to make sure you're doing an FHA 203K if you're selling a home that needs work, or maybe with an older roof and that kind of stuff, or it needs some kind of work to get it sold. That you want to attract the most buyers as possible. And we do have cash buyers, but not every buyer is going to be a cash buyer. So you want to attract both the cash buyer and the buyer who is also financing. If you find this information helpful, guys, please do like and share the video. Our information should be somewhere up here, somewhere below. We do offer complimentary consultations if you want to call us and just discuss what your situation is and the best way it is that we could find to help you to accomplish selling your home. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good one.
This program is brought to you by Gift Group Sells Homes. Need to buy or sell fast? Make one call, that's all. And put our 23 years of experience to work for you. Gift Group Sells Homes is the way to go. Call for 07-791-4713.